If you ever experienced the early days of the pandemic, where every shelf was as bare as if someone had wiped out the future, then perhaps you will understand that we can no longer take shopping for granted. No more familiar egg cartons. No more simple white rice packages. And Americans are feeling uneasy for the first time right in their familiar supermarkets. Now, it's coming back. But this time, there is no pandemic, but a quieter storm. Inflation, volatile supply chains, and new tariffs are gradually draining the wallets of many Americans. What you used to buy for $10 now might cost you $15, even $20. Many items that once seemed simple, like morning coffee, a bit of cooking oil, or a small jar of spices, are becoming more and more luxurious each day. In today's video, I will share with you 15 essential food items that you should stock up on immediately before prices skyrocket and the familiar shelves become empty again. The content of this video is created for informational and educational purposes, not as mandatory financial, investment, or shopping advice. All figures, policies, and tax rates are referenced from public sources and may change over time. Viewers should actively verify the information and choose what is suitable for their personal circumstances. Are you ready? Let's start with the first item. Let's be honest, for many of us, the day doesn't start with the sound of an alarm clock, but with the sound of a coffee machine, the sound of coffee dripping. The warm, rich aroma fills the kitchen. The first sip of coffee in the morning is not just a habit, but a ritual of awakening, a moment of peace before the... According to a report from the US Bureau of Economic Analysis, coffee prices have increased by more than 12% in the first quarter of 2025 alone, and are expected to continue rising due to a series of new taxes imposed by the government. Specifically, a 25% tax on coffee imported from Brazil and Colombia, the two main suppliers to the US. Additionally, processed and packaged coffee is indirectly affected by the 10% tax that covers all other imports. And now, you have to buy a 12-ounce bag of coffee for $9 to $10, whereas before it was only about $7. A familiar cappuccino at the local cafe can cost an extra $1 to $2, and sometimes you don't even notice. With 70% of adults in the US drinking coffee every day, this is no longer a matter of luxury or not, but rather a matter of finances and lifestyle habits. Especially for older adults, those who are used to starting their day with a cup of coffee on the balcony or in the kitchen. This change has a more profound impact than just the number on the bill. If you are a regular coffee drinker, now is the time you should consider buying your favorite coffee in bulk while the prices are still stable. At the same time, consider stocking up on drip coffee or whole bean coffee, which are easier to store. Or you could switch to locally roasted coffee if the flavor suits you. Finally, in a turbulent world, a cup of coffee every morning is not just caffeine but stability, the first breath that helps us start anew every day. In many American families, especially those of Asian and Latin American descent, or those accustomed to simple meals, rice is not just a food, but an indispensable part of their memories. It is also a staple food that you can rely on during tight budget days, still filling your stomach without being expensive. But by this point, rice is quietly becoming a luxury item. Since April 2025, the US government has imposed a tax of up to 245% on rice imported from India and China, two of the world's largest suppliers. A 36% tax on rice from Thailand. Even rice from Vietnam and Pakistan is not exempt from the impact. According to the USDA, about 80% of the rice consumed in American supermarkets is imported, especially fragrant rice, sticky rice, jasmine rice, and basmati rice, varieties that cannot be replaced by domestic rice. This means that the 25-pound bag of jasmine rice you used to buy for $18 might now cost $26 to $28. Those who regularly have to buy rice for the whole month, such as large families or retirees living frugally, will feel this change the most. For many elderly people, rice is not only a staple food, but also a source of easily digestible, easy to cook, and versatile nutrition. When everything else becomes expensive, a bowl of rice remains the last choice to keep the feeling of fullness and a bit of peace of mind. So what should you do? Prioritize finding high-quality rice right now, especially if you eat rice frequently. And buy in large bags, store in a cool, dry place, and it can last for months without losing quality. For those who don't eat rice regularly, this is still an ideal staple, easy to cook, easy to combine, and suitable for many dishes. The tiny grains of rice have fed billions of people for centuries. But now, if we don't pay attention, it might disappear from the shelves before we even realize it. Perhaps nothing is more familiar than a kitchen shelf full of neatly arranged canned goods. Baked beans canned for a quick dinner, a can of sweet corn for my wife's salad, or a can of tuna for those days when I'm not in the mood to cook. For middle-aged Americans, canned food has been a companion from the rationing days to the stormy times. And if the pandemic taught us anything, it is this: canned food can save us during turbulent times. But now, even a simple can of food is becoming a luxury. Not because of the food inside, but because of the metal shell on the outside. Starting in 2025, the US government imposed a 25% tax on imported steel and aluminum, two materials that make up a large part of food cans. According to statistics, 70% of the steel used to produce cans in the US is imported. When production costs rise, manufacturers are forced to increase prices, and once again, we are the ones who suffer. Predictions from the packaged food industry indicate that each can of food could increase in price by 20 to 58 cents. For major brands, this number is even higher when including shipping, packaging, and labor costs. Now, a can of black beans that used to cost 79 cents can go up to $1.29. A combo of 6 cans of tuna that used to cost under $5 can now soar to over $7. For families with fixed incomes, especially the elderly, those living alone, or those preparing for emergencies, each can of tuna that increases in price means tighter spending. Canned food is not the last resort. It is the first choice for safety, especially when you live far from the supermarket, need to stock up for emergencies, or simply, you want a nutritious meal when you no longer have the time or energy to cook. So what should we do? You can buy in bulk when there's a discount, especially for items like beans, corn, tomatoes, tuna, and canned meat. Pay attention to the expiration date. Most canned goods can be stored for 2 to 5 years if kept properly. Don't forget, maintain the habit of alternating use and replenishment so that your canned goods shelf is not just a place for storing food, but a place that upholds a sense of proactivity and peace. Because sometimes, a warm can of food in the cold WJ. Have you noticed? A kitchen can do without dessert, do without a special sauce, but it cannot do without cooking oil. From a fried egg in the morning to a pan-seared fish for dinner, cooking oil is not just an ingredient. It is a flavor enhancer, a connector of each dish, and an invisible friend that makes the family meal complete. But now, each drop of oil is carrying an additional cost that we don't even realize. According to data from the United States Department of Agriculture, USDA, in the first 6 months of 2025, the price of olive oil increased by 18%, canola oil by 12%, and overall vegetable oils by nearly 15%. The reason for this price increase, not only due to rising transportation costs, but also because of new import taxes heavily impacting major cooking oil exporting countries like Canada, Indonesia, Spain, and Italy. A gallon of medium quality olive oil that used to cost $19 to $21 can now exceed $25. For elderly people who cook frequently at home to save money and eat healthily, this is a significant increase in their monthly food budget. The issue is not just about the prices. Supply is also being affected by climate change. Droughts in Spain, floods in Indonesia, causing major cooking oil supplying countries to face shortages of raw materials. So what should we do to avoid being caught off guard? You might consider buying cooking oil in gallon or large bottles when there are promotions. In addition, consider diversifying. Combine olive oil, canola oil, coconut oil, to have flexible options for each dish. Be sure to store the stocked cooking oil bottles in a cool, dry place, because they can be stored for 1 to 2 years if unopened. And if possible, remember, cooking oil not only makes the food tastier, but also quietly maintains warmth and connection in every family meal. In an increasingly unpredictable world, preparation in the kitchen can be the first place we regain a sense of control. We don't usually think about spices until we lack them. No one praises this dish has great salt, but try cooking without pepper, without garlic, without vanilla, and you'll see the dish lose its soul. From the generation of our grandparents to today, Americans have always known how to bring the world into their meals, through the spicy flavor of Mexican chili, the strong aroma of Vietnamese pepper, or the rich sweetness of Madagascar vanilla. But now, the jars of spices in the kitchen are also becoming victims of the global trade war. Since April 2025, a series of new tariffs have caused the cost of importing spices to skyrocket. According to a report by the American Spice Trade Association, the average price of imported spices has increased by 10 to 35% in just the past 3 months, and this trend shows no signs of stopping. That means a jar of garlic powder that used to cost $2.99 could go up to $4.29. Pure vanilla, once a little luxury when baking, is now nearly double the price compared to last year. For middle-aged people who are used to cooking at home, this is not just a small change. Because spices are not just for making food delicious. They are to preserve emotions, culture, and even the habit of loving family through familiar dishes. To avoid the situation of spice prices skyrocketing or even running out on the shelves, you can buy spices in large jars, pure, which can be stored dry for 1 to 2 years. Or you can also consider and learn the method of growing simple herbs at home like oregano, basil, chili, and green onions, both cost-effective and convenient. If possible, try drying and storing fresh spices yourself, like garlic, chili, and aromatic leaves. Because a meal without spices can fill your stomach, but it can't warm your heart. And in a time when the world is full of turmoil, what we need most is not just food, but the feeling that we are still fully living each meal. If you've ever baked during the year-end holidays, if you've ever made pudding for your grandchild in the summer, or simply, if you've ever opened a bottle of vanilla and taken a deep breath, you will understand why vanilla is not just a flavoring, but the scent of memories. A touch of vanilla can turn a simple cake into a gift. It softens the smell of eggs, enhances the flavor of cream, and warms the kitchen on cold days. But now, that sweet aroma is becoming one of the most expensive and scarce spices on the shelves. Starting in March 2025, the US government imposed a 47% import tax on vanilla from Madagascar, a country that accounts for over 70% of the world's vanilla production. The reason is not just the tax. Climate change, storms, and droughts have severely impacted the harvests in Madagascar. Fewer products, higher prices due to tariffs. The result is that pure vanilla is becoming almost a luxury. According to statistics from Nielsen, the average price of pure vanilla in the US has increased from $20 per ounce to over $35 per ounce in just 6 months. Even artificial vanilla, which is cheaper, is affected due to a lack of alternative supply. This not only affects home bakers, but also impacts small bakeries, which rely on vanilla to create delicious products. Yogurt, ice cream, and dessert companies, where vanilla is a base ingredient. And even the chains of restaurants and cafes, when customers gradually feel the absence of the old flavor. So what should we do? If you often bake, buy pure vanilla in small quantities and store it properly. It can last a long time if kept in a cool, dark place. Consider natural alternatives like almond extract, maple syrup, or even vanilla extract from beans. And if possible, invest in whole vanilla beans to make your own extract at home. It will save you money in the long run. Vanilla is something you can't see in the dish, but it makes us feel the love. When we add a bit of vanilla to the cake, it's not just for flavor, it's to say, I took care. In an era where everything is fast and hurried, keeping the scent of vanilla in the kitchen can be a way to preserve a part of the sweetest memories of life. For adults, milk is a source of calcium, an easily absorbable nutrient, and an indispensable part of maintaining flexibility over the years. But now, this food that seemed always available is caught in the spiral of rising costs. According to an analysis by the US Dairy Export Council, the US imports over $1.2 billion worth of dairy products each year from neighboring countries. When this tariff was implemented, many distributors were forced to pass the cost on to consumers. As a result, the price of imported yogurt has now increased from $4.99 to $6.29. Imported cheese can see price increases of 20% to 40%, especially for premium varieties. Some familiar brands are even disappearing from the shelves because they can't compete with the rising prices. And even though retailers like Albertsons, Kroger, or Costco are trying to negotiate for suppliers to bear some of the tax burden, this strategy is hard to maintain in the long run. When profit margins thin out, the end buyers are still the ones who bear the brunt. For middle-aged or elderly consumers, this has a deeper impact than you might think. Because milk and dairy products are not just food, they are an essential part of a health-maintaining diet. A glass of milk in the evening to help you sleep. A small piece of cheese to provide protein. A jar of yogurt helps keep the intestines healthy. What should you do to take the initiative? Buy high-quality domestic dairy products, gradually replacing some imported items if the taste is suitable. Buy in bulk, store properly in a cool place to save money. Prioritize local brands with stable supply, both to reduce costs and support American agriculture. USA milk is not just food, it is care. Amid the fluctuations in the economy and trade, ensuring that oneself and one's family continue to be fully nourished every day is a quiet yet profoundly meaningful act. Do you remember those rushed mornings when breakfast was simply a bowl of cereal with milk? Or those lazy days when you sat quietly in the kitchen, savoring each spoonful, listening to the morning radio? For many middle-aged Americans, cereal is not just food, it is a memory, a part of the family rhythm. However, like many other essential products, breakfast cereals are also becoming increasingly expensive and uncertain. In 2025, the cereal industry will face a series of pressures. Main ingredients such as oats, rice, and corn are all affected by the global supply chain and rising transportation costs. It is estimated that the retail price of cereals has increased by an average of 9.6% in the first 6 months of the year, and the prices of products for the elderly, diabetics, or low-sugar cereals have risen even more, by 12 to 15%. For middle-aged and elderly people, this is a convenient breakfast option, low in oil and easy to digest. For those with a fixed income, the continuous price increases make this safe food less accessible each week. Additionally, families caring for grandparents or those who no longer cook regularly rely on cereals as a simple yet nutritious solution. But now, the prices force them to reconsider and sometimes even give up. Now, to ensure that cereal is always available at home, you can buy a large combo, which usually has a lower unit price than the small box. Explore domestic brands that are less advertised but of good quality. Combine cereal with yogurt and fruit for a simple yet nutritious breakfast, and save money. Cereal is not just a child's snack as many people think. It is a bridge connecting generations, when both grandchildren and grandparents eat from the same box, sharing a quiet morning together. Maintaining this habit, while everything around is changing, is also a way to preserve the rhythm and warmth in each family. Imagine a tiring afternoon. You open the cupboard and find a can of tuna waiting for you. Just a few minutes. Mix with a bit of mayonnaise, a few slices of cucumber, or place it on a slice of toast. That's it. A quick meal, high in protein, no cooking, no pots to wash. For the elderly, canned tuna is not just food, it's a solution, saving time, money, and even energy. But now, even that solution is under threat. The average price of a can of tuna has increased from 99 cents to $1.49 to $1.69 in just 6 months. With a combo of 6 cans, the price has jumped from $5.49 to nearly $8, an increase of over 40%. For many middle-aged and elderly people, those who live alone or have a simple diet, this is no small change. A healthy meal rich in omega-3, which used to be bought for just a few cents, has now become something that needs to be carefully considered. Not only tuna, but other canned seafood are also seeing price increases across the board due to fishing costs, import taxes, and cold chain storage expenses. The solution for smart consumers is to buy discounted combo packs when there are promotions. Check the expiration date carefully. Canned seafood usually lasts 3 to 5 years if unopened. Prioritize domestic brands of medium scale, better quality, more stable prices. Stocking canned fish as a food emergency fund, especially during natural disasters, power outages, or days when health doesn't allow for cooking. Because sometimes a small can of tuna can bring a great sense of reassurance, not just because it's convenient, but because it reminds us that we are still actively taking care of ourselves in a simple yet complete way. Potatoes are a familiar, humble food that is indispensable in the kitchens of millions of Americans. However, the year 2025 turned that humble dish into a part of the price storm. The price of potatoes increased by an average of 14.6%. A bag of potato chips increased from $3.99 to $5.49, and many brands even reduced the quantity but kept the price without any notice. What's more concerning is that convenient products like frozen French fries, instant mashed potatoes, and potato snacks are also seeing price increases, reduced promotions, and shortages in some retail chains like Target, Walmart, and Costco. For middle-aged and elderly people, this is not just a snack. It's a dish that's easy to cook, easy to eat, and can replace rice or bread. A comfort food, something that makes us feel the meal has the taste of childhood. And it's a quick source of carbohydrates, suitable for those who need to maintain a simple diet. So what should we do to cope? Buy fresh potatoes when they are in season. Store them in a cool place to use gradually. Prioritize mashed potatoes or frozen potatoes from domestic brands. They are usually cheaper and easier to store. Make mashed potatoes at home instead of buying packaged fried potatoes. It's cheaper and has fewer preservatives. Potatoes have never been something to worry about in the supermarket. But now, they are reminding us that even the most familiar foods are not immune to the whirlpool of inflation and global instability. Keeping a few bags of frozen fries in the freezer or a few fresh potatoes in the corner of the kitchen is also a way for us to preserve a simple and warm part of the American meal. For millions of middle-aged Americans, especially those living alone, retired, or with a middle income, cheap frozen food is a daily lifesaver. But now, even those affordable items are becoming unexpectedly expensive. According to data from the Food Marketing Institute, the prices of cheap frozen foods such as frozen pizza, chicken Alfredo pasta, and egg-fried rice have increased by an average of 17% in the first half of 2025, with some items rising by as much as 25%. And what's more concerning, many items are no longer available for regular display in supermarkets. Due to the high cost of operating freezers, retail chains are forced to reduce their inventory. For older consumers, this is a real blow, because frozen food helps them maintain nutritious meals when they can't cook regularly. It is a cost-effective option for those who live alone or care for family members, and it serves as a safety net for food, especially during financially difficult times. To adapt, you should consider buy early and store properly. Most frozen foods can be stored for 6 to 12 months if the freezer is stable. Look for local brands that are less advertised but offer better quality for the value. If possible, prepare simple dishes and freeze them yourself. Both cost-effective and allows you to control the ingredients. Frozen food is not a choice of laziness. It is a choice for practical people who know how to balance cost, health, and time. And in these times when everything is getting more expensive, keeping a few meals in the freezer is like giving yourself a little peace of mind when everything out there is too fast-paced to keep up with. Almonds and many types. Other nuts are known as superfoods, recommended in most healthy diets, from Mediterranean to Dash. But now, what was once a convenient, smart, energy-rich snack is gradually becoming a luxury item on supermarket shelves. According to USDA statistics, from January to June 2025, the price of almonds increased by 22%, cashews by 18%, and some premium nuts like macadamia nuts by 30 to 35%. Now, a 16-ounce bag of roasted almonds can cost between $9 to $12, depending on the brand. Mixed nut combos, which used to be a budget-friendly option, have also increased in price while their quantity has been reduced. For middle-aged and elderly people, this is not an ordinary snack. Nuts are also a good source of healthy fats, help reduce cholesterol, provide fiber and plant protein, making them ideal for snacks. And they can be stored for a long time, used gradually as needed, making them very suitable for people living alone or not cooking much. To ensure this ingredient doesn't disappear from your kitchen shelf, you should buy it when there are great deals at systems like Costco, Sam's Club. Avoid buying small packages at convenience stores. The unit price is very high. If possible, buy unseasoned raw nuts and roast them at home. It's cheaper and reduces unnecessary salt and sugar. Note store carefully in a sealed jar in a cool, dry place. This helps the nuts retain their crunchiness and nutrients for months. Keeping a jar of almonds in the kitchen is like keeping a promise to your own health. And in a world where healthy choices for the body are increasingly taxed, stocking up on some nutritious seeds early on is also a way to protect your own future, simply and practically. And for millions of middle-aged and older Americans, bread and flour are not just food. They are the foundation of simple, economical, and nutritious meals. However, like a host of other staple foods, the prices of bread and flour are rising at an alarming rate, yet few are paying attention. According to the US Department of Agriculture, the price of flour increased by nearly 19% in the first half of 2025, and the price of sandwich bread rose by 12 to 15%, especially for whole grain, organic, or gluten-free varieties. Sandwich bread is easy to eat, soft, convenient, and suitable for people with weak teeth or picky eaters. Meanwhile, flour is the foundational ingredient for countless traditional dishes, baked goods, pancakes, sauces, and even fried foods. And more importantly, this is the main source of carbohydrates in the diet of millions of middle and lower income Americans. So to avoid any interruptions, buy flour in large bags, 5 to 10 pounds, when it's on sale. If stored in a cool, dry place, it can last for a year. Make bread at home with a bread maker. It's cost-effective and allows you to control the quality of the ingredients. When buying commercial bread, prioritize domestic brands, keep it simple, and avoid premium package types if you need to save money. A slice of bread may look ordinary, but for many people, it is breakfast, lunch, and sometimes even dinner. Keeping a few bags of flour in the kitchen or a few loaves of bread in the freezer is how you protect simplicity, stability, and abundance in a world where even the most ordinary things are becoming fragile. We have just gone through 15 familiar food items together, from a morning cup of coffee, a can of tuna at noon, to a slice of bread for dinner, all of which are gradually becoming more expensive, scarcer, and no longer always available as before. Nothing on today's list is a luxury. They are all simple yet essential things, helping us live fully, care for our loved ones, and keep the family kitchen warm. If there's anything we've learned after these tumultuous years, it's this. Peace does not come from grand things, but it comes from the fact that you can still brew a cup of coffee, bake a cake, or prepare a simple yet nutritious meal for your loved ones. And to maintain that peace, we need to proactively prepare starting today, not waiting until prices skyrocket or shelves start to empty. Check your kitchen and refrigerator. Note down the items that are missing and likely to increase in price. Buy early, buy enough, buy smart. And don't forget to share this video with your family and friends, so we can all be proactive instead of reactive to unexpected changes. This video is created for the purpose of informing and educating the community. All data, prices, and tax policies are compiled from reliable public sources at the time of execution and may change over time. We do not provide financial, investment, or mandatory buying and selling advice. Viewers should consider their personal situation and stay updated on local market information to make appropriate choices. If you find this video helpful, don't forget to hit like, subscribe to the channel, and leave a comment below. Thank you, and see you in the next video, where we not only talk about food, but also about living fully and proactively in a world that is changing every day.